p.m. on Tuesday, April the 16th, 2019. I'd like to call this General Committee meeting to order. May I have a motion to please approve the agenda as circulated? Moved by Mayor Marakis, second by Councillor Gilliland. All in favor of the agenda? Opposed? Motion carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to community presentations. We have two community presentations this evening. Presentation first is from Dave Legale, representing the Aurora Senior Center regarding the achievements of the Aurora Senior Center. If you please come up to the podium, please state your name, and just reminded that you have 5 minutes for your presentation. You'll receive a signal at the 1 minute mark when you're approaching the last minute.
First of all, before you put me on the clock, we have quite a difference in age groups here. I'm representing the Senior Center, and we got all these kids here. And it looks like I'm pretty outnumbered. So I guess I better not say anything bad about the Tigers. Anyways, good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Mayor Marakis for the opportunity to address the council regarding the Aurora Seniors Association. The Aurora Seniors Association operates in partnership with the Town of Aurora Community Services Department. Our success is based largely on our members who volunteer their time and talent, along with the wonderful staff we have from the Town of Aurora. First of all, I'll give you a very brief history. In 2004, we were incorporated as an Ontario not-for-profit organization. In November of that year, we moved into our present site, which is a 14,000 square foot facility owned by the Town of Aurora. The first year we moved in, we had 450 members. Now we have 1,500 members, and we're still growing. Our members log in 42,000 day visits to the center each year. Our goal is to ensure that seniors 55 and older are physically active, stimulated in mind, spirit, and body, while providing an enriching social environment. The greatest enemy to seniors today is social isolation. Social isolation. We are trying to address this problem. Our structure is twofold. The town is part of our structure, and the ASA is the other part of the structure. We have, with the town, we have 3 full-time town staff. Carrie Papillon is our adult program director, Andrew Bailey, the assistant, and Bill Huck is our primary facility operator. We're very fortunate to have such 3 dedicated people working at our center. Their duties include town programs at the center, day trips and extended getaways. They produce a newsletter once a month. And speaking of the newsletter, I left some on the table out there. So on your way out, if you'd like to pick one up, feel free to. They organize special events for the volunteer lunch, organize a space for all of our activities, and set up many of our activities and functions. Now I'll get on to the ASA. We have a board of directors that has 9 members. We meet every 3rd Monday of the month, and our minutes are posted on the bulletin board at the center and on the website. The board also meets with the town director of community services, Robin McDougall, and we do that to ensure ongoing communication between us. We also meet with government officials, both federal and provincial, a few times a year to discuss senior issues. We also have 9 standing committees, which are composed of a chair and a liaison and 3 or 4 members. These committees, we have 9 of them. One of them is a bylaw committee, a finance committee, etc. We also have ad hoc committees to look into some of our issues. One of those committees is a transportation committee, and the other is a space issues committee. Our activities. We have over 34 activities, and each activity has a chair. Some require volunteers as well. Some of these activities are pickleball, badminton, sewing, knitting, book clubs. We have a
It's okay, 1 minute, go ahead. Go ahead, that was just the 1 minute, go ahead.
Oh. we have a choir, a drama club. We have a lot of different card games. We have a snooker room, woodworking shop, a computer room, and also every Wednesday we have a luncheon, and it's very popular and usually sold out. Our volunteers. Without the volunteers, we wouldn't have a senior center. We have approximately 160 volunteers that log over 22,000 volunteer hours a year. They look after all our activities. Finances. We rent the building from the town of Aurora, and from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, and also 2 evenings a week. The rest of the time, the town has the use of the building. Our annual membership is $25 for residents, $35 for non-residents. We have a $1 a day activity fee. We raise money from our garage sale and our holiday bazaar. We also raise money through other functions such as dances. Last Friday night at our dance, we had over 80 people. Basically, at the end of the year, we break even. We have an accountant, and we also have a financial audit every year that is posted at the annual general meeting. We have a few issues. One is parking. I couldn't get a parking spot here tonight, to be honest with you. But we're trying to look into the parking with Robin to see what we can do about it. Space issues. We also have a problem filling in all our activities. We have to go off-site for some of our programs. And transportation. For a senior to get to the senior center using public transit, it's impossible. We're looking into alternate ideas, such as Schatz or Mobility Plus or other things. In the future, the senior population in Aurora is projected to increase by 25% in the next 5 years. So you know what's going to happen to the numbers of our senior center. As the numbers of the ASA continue to increase each year, we are going to have a lot of difficult decisions to make. We possibly have to outsource more of our programs, possibly to the new cultural center if it gets built, or to Williams or some other location. The more physically, mentally, and socially active seniors are, means there is less strain on the medical system. That is why the ASA is so important to Aurora. Hopefully, we can work with the town on the above issues, and that will benefit all Aurora. If any of you would like to take a tour of our facility in the future, give me a call. Or also, if anybody would like to come to the lunch, give me a call as well. Thank you for your time.
That's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Legale. Please stay there at the podium for a moment. We may have some questions. May I have a motion to receive the delegation? Councillor Gartner, Councillor Thompson. Any questions for the delegate this evening? Oh, I'm sorry, Wendy? Sorry, Councillor Gartner, my apologies.
Thank you very much. Have you heard that we have one of the best senior centers in Ontario?
It's not one of the best.
It's
It
the
is
best.
the best.
Thank you. And you're right. Without the volunteers, we wouldn't have a senior center. We wouldn't be able to afford to run it. So thank you, and extend our good wishes to everybody there.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Maracas. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Gilliland.
No
I'm sorry, Mr. Legale? Mr. Legale, we have a couple of more questions for you. Sorry.
I need to exercise anyway. It's supposed to be good for seniors.
It's good. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Dave, thank you so much for coming out and speaking to us today. I learned quite a bit about how much the Aurora Senior does and what they provide. And yes, I think they are the best of the best. I was like, wow, 160 volunteers and 22,000 hours. That is so impressive. We are so lucky. So thank you for everything that you and your organization does. I would love a tour. I will definitely be calling you. I have been to that lunch, and boy, you have to be there at, I think, 11 o'clock to get that ticket.
Yeah, but at least an hour early.
And I
then
know
you got to have big elbows.
and you definitely make great female bacon sandwiches, I can tell you that. So I look forward for that tour. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
your kind
Councillor
words.
Gilliland. Stay right there. Mayor Marakis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Dave, thank you very much for coming and presenting. Councillor Gartner is correct. We have the best senior center in all of the GTA, if not Ontario. We're proud of it. I know you guys are proud of it. When you walk into that senior center, there's a buzz every time you walk in there. There's something going on. Everyone's active. And I know one of the seniors that I met during our meet and greet and conversation roundtable with the minister, they said to me that it was a lifesaver that they found the senior center, that they were able to go there. They found the workshop. It brought them back. They were lonely. They had nothing, and when they found the senior center, it made them feel like they belonged, and it was incredible to hear that story and to hear everyone's story within that senior center. So we appreciate everything that the board does, that all the volunteers do. I know at the volunteer appreciation that this past Sunday, it was a great gathering. The room was full. Everyone was excited. We got to see all those pets as well, which was incredible as well. But without those volunteers, we wouldn't have the senior center we do. So I'm looking forward to continuing the relationship, the partnership with the town as we move forward, and continue to have our senior center be the best in all of Ontario. So thank you for coming out this evening.
I appreciate that. Let me say one more thing. We provide physical and mental programs such as cards and exercise pickleball things. The most important thing at that senior center is socialization. People come there, they meet their old friends, or they meet new friends, but they socialize, and that is, they go home with a different feeling than they come in that front door with. It's true.
Thank you so much. I wanted to say just a couple of words as well. First of all, thank you to Mayor Marakis and my council peers for their comments. And I too think it is the best senior center in the world, never mind just Ontario. And I just want to say thank you again for everyone. And I don't want to repeat everything that they said, but I do want to say that when I walk through that door, I feel like I'm home, and there's a welcoming feeling, and there's always something going on. And I just want to thank you very, very much. Thank you to all the volunteers. Thank you to yourself and everyone that makes the Aurora Senior Center happen, and the staff. So thank you again for presenting this evening. We all heard your great delegation, and we're looking forward to being more involved in visiting with the Aurora Senior Center as often as we can. So
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much, and you make me feel like it's all worthwhile.
It is. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. On to our second delegation presentation this evening. Oh, I'm sorry. May we all vote all in favor for the last presentation? My apologies. Thank you. Motion that carries. Thank you so much. Apologies. For our next presentation this evening, we have Joe Bentolila, President of the Aurora Minor Hockey Association. Yay! Regarding the Aurora, Joe has a lot of fans. We're all your fans, Joe. So Aurora Minor Hockey Association update. Please state your name. And we have to remind you that you have 5 minutes for your presentation, and you'll receive a signal when you're at the 1 minute mark. Thank you,
Madam Chair. Mr. Mayor, members of council, I want to thank you all for having us here this evening. My name is Joe Bentolila. I'm the president of Aurora Minor Hockey, and I love it there. Aurora Minor Hockey is like a home. We have about 1,000 kids aging from 4 to 20 that play the great Canadian game of hockey. We have over 400 volunteers that allow us to operate our program as good as it runs today. With the work of Mr. Downey and Mr. Furman, our communications are impeccable. Always going, always talking, leaving an open line, and it allows us to operate our programs the way it runs today. So thank you to Mr. Downey and his crew. As you can see, we have a couple successes this year, although all our kids in Aurora Minor Hockey are successes. When they leave our buildings with a smile, to me, that's a success. I don't measure success by wins and losses, but more so by the smiles on children's faces, that they want to come back to the rink. They want to continue playing this wonderful game of ours. And hopefully, we have some older ones and some younger ones. Eventually, hopefully they'll all take over from people like ourselves and the coaches in the back and want to do the same and carry on this program the way it is today. I really feel that Aurora Minor Hockey is a way of life. It is a place where you meet so many friends, regardless of the levels that these kids play. Both of these teams happen to be at our top level of AA. Below them is A, and then there's minor development and additional entry. And then, of course, then there's House League. All of them are all champions, but these ladies and gentlemen back here, they've gone to that extra mile. Aurora Minor Hockey is an organization that is governed by Hockey Canada, the Ontario Hockey Federation, and the Ontario Minor Hockey Association, and then down to our league, which is York Simcoe Minor Hockey League. So there's a lot of stages. However, all the rules and regulations are followed throughout by them. And whatever their rules are, we abide by them. So we have a great group of kids that are here this evening that have earlier met with our mayor. And this is the type of thing we should be promoting for our youth, to be able to, regardless of whether they win something or not, just because they are Aurorans and they want to come and they want to see what this forum is like. This is what it's about. These guys back here listening to people like yourselves that are in this position. So the Aurora Minor Hockey is fortunate that we have such a good group of people that volunteer in it, and then a support group like yourselves. I'm under the 5 minutes, so if you'd like any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Joe, for your presentation. May I have a motion to receive the presentation this evening? Councillor Gartner, Councillor Gallo. Any questions? Mayor Marakis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joe, thank you very much for coming. Kids, thank you. Parents, volunteers, everyone for coming this evening. Joe, you're right. You know, it's about the kids. It's about recognizing everyday Aurorans for achievements. Whether it's winning, it doesn't matter whether you win the championship. It matters about you're going out, you're making friends, you're learning about teamwork, you're learning about leadership. That's what's important, and I think Aurora is truly extraordinary when it comes to that. You know, and about the volunteers. You know, we heard about the seniors, all the incredible volunteers that make that center what it is. What makes the Aurora Minor Hockey the organization it is the volunteers as well. What makes all of our organizations, how great they are, is the volunteers. I do have a quote that I did want to read. I read it at the Seniors Association. I think it's very fitting, so I'm just going to read it for everyone. Volunteering is the ultimate exercise in democracy. You vote in elections every 4 years, but when you volunteer, you vote every day about the kind of community you want to live in. And I think that speaks exactly to what Aurora is about. So once again, I thank you for all coming here this evening. Congratulations to both teams. And I know that we will get up in the center and we will take a picture with council as well. But I just wanted to say congratulations again and thank you for everything that Aurora Minor Hockey does for our community and for our town. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for Joe? Yes, Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and speaking here today and sharing your passion and your story and having your older boys, younger boys here. I think it's great. And I love what you said, how it's in addition to the volunteering, how it's a way of life. I have children who are in sport all their life, not necessarily hockey, but in sport and just in general, whether it's hockey or whatnot, just sports are second family. It teaches you so much about you as a person. You're supporting your teammates, you're cheering people on. It's about teamwork, and you learn so much about self and respect for others, and it just encompasses everything. So I just want to say thank you for all you do. Great job, guys. Congratulations on everything, and keep up the work, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Councillor Gartner.
So thank you for coming. How many years have you been doing this?
This will be my 20th year as president. I've been doing it for 23 years.
It's incredible. Thanks to everybody for coming. Great to see you all.
Can I add one other thing, Madam Chair?
Sure.
Aurora Minor Hockey is going to be 65 years old this coming season.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Hey,
we'll make sure we invite all of you to our ceremonies.
Thank you.
so you'll be a senior.
The Tiger will be.
Thank you. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I just want to make a special note that, well, thank you and Andrea, and I want to make a special note that it's highly likely that Andrea is the hippocampus of the couple. Are they? Yes. And just an important question is, you hang out with young kids for most of your time. Do you have time for adult friends, and do you and Andrea ever go out on date nights?
Date nights.
I'll tell you, some of my best of friends I grew up with in minor hockey. How I got involved in minor hockey is I did not like the way how things were being done when my 28-year-old was 5. So rather than be that crazy parent that's always up there screaming, make a change, get involved. Get involved. Believe me, there's so much room for involvement for anybody to volunteer their time, whether it's a week, a month, or 23 years.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And before, just a couple of things. Thank you again to you and Andrea and to all the coaches here tonight and for putting in your volunteer time. I mean, it's incredible what you've done in 20 years. Congratulations. That's wonderful. And it's a reflection of how great the Aurora Tigers are. And the youth here tonight, you guys, congratulations for all you've done and all your wins and plays. And win or lose, you're still the champions to us. You make us proud. And we're so happy and honored to have you here. And it's just great to see the youth, our seniors, and everyone in between all together here tonight. It's a great feeling. It's a sense of community. So thank you so much. And it's just our honor that you're here. And I think Mayor Marakis would like to suggest what we're doing next, I believe. So Mayor Marakis, if you wanted to help us out.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Joe, I don't know if do you want to do both teams separately, or do you want to do them together? You want to do them together? So why don't all the boys come up to the, both teams come up to the center here? And council, if you could all come in with us, and we'll take a picture.
Wow, excellent. So we're into the circle. Okay. All right, I guess we'll continue with the meeting. We have another delegation this evening. We have two delegations. Sorry, my apologies. Those are presentations. So two delegations this evening. The next delegation is Diane Mercer from Hunter and Associates Limited, representing Canadian Tire regarding item R2 PDS 19-021. If Ms. Mercer, Diane Mercer, can come to the podium, thank you so much. Please state your name, and just to be reminded, you have 5 minutes for your delegation this evening, and you'll receive a signal when you reach the 1 minute remaining mark.
Oh, I'll be really short. And this is a really tough act to follow.
I know.
It's so warm. My name is Diana Mercier of Hunter & Associates. I'm here today with my client, Emily Chow from Canadian Tire.
Sorry, can you put the mic a little closer so I just, yeah, perfect, thank you.
Is this better?
Yep.
Okay. This application was before council and the general committee about a year or 2 years ago. The purpose of this application is the zoning bylaw amendment in regard to 14700 Yonge Street. As everyone here is aware, the Canadian Tire has relocated to Bayview, and this store has remained vacant since about 2016. The reason why we're here today is to to basically rip off the old bylaw that only permits the Canadian Tire and allow for general commercial uses found in any shopping center to be permitted on the site. We are proposing to divide the existing building into 3. An additional loading area is proposed to the south, and we are also proposing a permission for the use, anyway, for a drive-through located on the northeast corner of the property. A restaurant pad is intended to go there. I'm here tonight to answer any questions. We've read through the staff report. It's quite thorough. And Emily's here tonight, too, in case you need to answer any questions. I put her down on the delegation form, too, so she's able to speak.
Great, good. Thank you very much. Do we have any, may I have a mover for this delegation? Councillor Gilliland, seconder, Councillor Thompson. Any questions? Mayor Marakis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, thank you for coming this evening, but I'm just curious, is the property still for sale?
Canadian Tire corporate has now made the decision to keep the property within their portfolio of real estate. So they're retaining it, and in fact, we are looking to submit for site plan approval for the proposed developments, the new development being the restaurant and the loading area to the south.
Thank you. And just to follow up through you, Madam Chair, if council was to grant these amendments, how quickly would you expect opening of new retail stores in that area?
What we're hoping to do is to. That depends on planning and how fast we can move it through. I can't express.
I guess just as a follow-up, Madam Chair, I'm more curious as to whether if council was to approve the amendments, is this something that would that you would sit on for a bit, or would it be something that you?
Actually, we have our preliminary consultation meeting. I just got an email from Matthew in planning this afternoon saying that we have a time set for the 25th at 10 a.m. I think. Anyway, in any event, we've given them preliminary drawings, just conceptual for now, so we can start a dialogue with staff as to what requirements are needed to make the submissions to realize this proposal. Okay. So we want to they're anxious to get the ball rolling. It's sat empty for so long, and they've been carrying an empty store, an empty property for this long, and they're motivated. Canadian Tire is.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for the delegate? Okay, no, thank you very much. May I have all in favor of receiving the delegation? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Or delegation carries. Thank you. We have a second delegation this evening, Mr. Jack Lorion from the Business Improvement Association, the BIA, regarding item R6, the memorandum, Business Improvement Area Business Park and Budget. If you can please state your name, and just a reminder that you'll have 5 minutes and you get a signal at the 1 minute mark.
Sure. My name's Jack Lorian. I'm with the Business Improvement Association. Good evening, Madam Chair and Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for hearing me. I'm one of 8 directors, volunteer directors on the board for the Business Improvement Association, and we also have Anthony Iarello from the town as part of our board. And we've been we've had several meetings in trying to determine what would make sense to increase the livability and business atmosphere of the downtown area. So you have from us, we've provided you with a business plan. And on the last page of the business plan, we've set out our budget, the financials for that. And the mission of the Downtown Aurora Business Improvement Association is to support member businesses through promotion and education, to attract new businesses that add value to the downtown core and support their integration within the community and participate in the marketing and beautification efforts for the downtown Aurora. With so many new changes to Aurora, being Library Square and the remodeling of the Cultural Center, we will see positive change through marketing initiatives, running events to spotlight the downtown core, supporting existing businesses, building a long-range plan with the Economic Development Board to help attract new businesses that will further enrich the downtown experience and contribute to the beautification efforts undertaken by the town through the streetscape plan. Our vision is to lead the revitalization of downtown Aurora as a town focal point where businesses thrive, residents live, work and play, and visitors feel welcomed. Our objectives are marketing and education, support economic development, to engage members, and to require that respect and inclusivity always be shown to BIA members, town staff, and all who engage with the BIA, inclusive of volunteers. Our request for Town Council is to establish a business levy. The levy structure is being requested as we are here to advocate on behalf of the interests of the business improvement area. We wish to maintain and improve the downtown core area and provide a more pleasant atmosphere for local businesses in neighboring residential area. The Business Improvement Board of Management has prepared its budget and we are seeking council approval. The board will be presenting its budget at its general membership meeting for approval. Once approved, we are requesting that you add a special levy to each property as listed within the boundaries summarized as follows. Membership fees based on $400 average per property, and 101 properties would be $40,400. And then on our business plan, we've set out a 3-year plan. And we in year 1 we show advertising costs of $15,000, and that would include websites, social media ads, newspaper ads, advertorials, flyers, and marketing materials. Entertainment costs $10,000, which would be hiring entertainment and bands for the 3 street closures each year. Metal building and lawn signs, $15,000. Metal that would be to designate historically significant properties. Metal building signs, lawn signs to show our heritage, and a historic. And then so that's for year 1. Year 2, we would look again at the same thing for advertising costs, $7,000 for entertainment costs. Continue with our metal sign and lawn signs. And then we would look to have a mural put in the downtown area on a prominent Yonge Street building depicting a visual of historic downtown Aurora. And then year 3, $4,000 for websites and social media ads, $4,000 for hiring entertainment, and we visualize a metal archway on Wellington's to signify the entering of the historic downtown Aurora. That's great. So that in a high level, that's our budget, and our wish list for year 1 would be some vinyl lamppost banners that if the town could provide that would be 2x5 and 4 times 24. That's my presentation.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Much appreciated. May I have a mover and a seconder for the delegate? Councilor Gilliland, Mayor Marakis. We have some questions for you, so Mayor Marakis, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for coming, Jack. I appreciate it. So through you, Madam Chair, I'm just curious, has the board, has the BIA, have you spoken to the 101 businesses, just specifically about this specific plan yet?
We haven't.
Will you be?
Sure we will be, yeah.
Thank you. And I'm just interested, I like the fact about the historic metal archway on Wellington.
I wasn't sure how you'd feel about that.
Well, I liked it before. I actually had some discussions last term as well about it, but it's quite funny. Ms. Mackenzie Smith and myself had this discussion today, and the thought is not only one, but possibly a second one at the other end. So you would almost have it at the one end of the library, running all the way to Wellington, and have two entrances and exits.
That would be very attractive, for sure.
Yeah, so maybe it's something that we can look at as we move forward and continue to work through this process. But thank you for coming, and hopefully we can see how this pans out and how this works as we move forward.
It's exciting, all the changes that are going to happen downtown.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Marakis. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you as well for being here. It may be obvious, but I just want to make sure I understand. In terms of the levy, you're not proposing a flat rate, that $400, while on average, would really be determined based on their proportional share of the
That's my understanding, yes.
Tax levy.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Whatever would be fair.
Yep. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Gartner.
Hi. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's been a long time in coming, and we really appreciate everybody stepping up and getting involved. The entertainment costs, something small. It starts at 10,000, goes to 7, and then it goes to 4. Are you planning on having?
I think it's just trying to allocate resources as we go along. So I think that the idea is to create some interest at the beginning, and then get some momentum going.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you and everybody for stepping forward.
Thanks, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. And I just want, if there's no further comments or questions, just thank you very much. The BIA sure has hit the ground running. You've been here a few times already since your inception. I think it hasn't been couple of months, I believe.
Yep.
So I'm really proud of that, and thank you for relaying the need to beautify and work on the downtown core, because for me it's critical for the success of our business, along with the great initiatives of our Library Square. And so thank you for continuing to push forward, and again, thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. May I have all in favor to receive the delegations? Thank you. That carries. We'll move on to the agenda. We don't have any consent items on the agenda this evening. We'll move on to advisory committee meeting minutes. May I have a motion to receive items A1 and A2? Sure, absolutely. You may ask. Sorry, go ahead.
With respect to the Finance Advisory Committee meeting minutes, on page 3, and I think it's probably of interest to everybody on council, is project management. So I see that we have some project management guidelines and key pillars such as budget, scope. It's been a problem in the past, and I'm glad to see that we're putting something concrete in place. When will this be ready to be rolled out? Who do I ask? Mr. CAO.
CEO.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. This is being rolled out right now. It's being phased because we're ultimately going to have these plans for all levels of projects, but we're using it for the major projects that are already underway as a tool to develop it sort of in a live format. So rather than waiting till we have all the processes perfectly established, we're implementing them now and learning as we go.
And what projects are we learning on as we go?
Through you, Madam Chair, right now, the major projects are the Armory, the completion of the JOC, and Library Square.
It does concern me that you're mentioning Library Square in the context of learning. So all of these will be in place, like we will have formalized processes in place to use for Library Square as opposed to,
To you, Madam Chair, absolutely. What I meant by as a learning, I mean for the whole organization, rather than training the whole organization on the processes that we're going to use to do project management and everything else, and bringing it into the organization as a new system. We're putting the system in place for these projects and allowing the rest of the organization to catch up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Is that it? Councillor Gardner? Good. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I just wanted to add, with respect to that item, for those that were on council last term, when we dealt with the GOC, there was a budgetary task force that looked at the project at certain intervals and made comments along the way. What this council chose to do this time around is allow FAC to sort of serve as that budgetary task force. So the staff presented us with a bit of a chart to indicate where the project was in terms of, you know, any issues, whether it's on budget, and it's still a bit of a work in progress. It was sort of a red light, yellow light, green light structure, and so they were looking for feedback from the members of FAC, but, you know, that will continue to develop, and of course will also come to council as well. But that was part of the purpose of it, to serve as that initial outlook at how are these projects, and staff chose those projects as a way to, you know, I guess, use them as an example for the development of that kind of structure. And so I know all members of the FAC had comments about, you know, what ways to improve it, be more informational, and so I look forward when it gets finished to being brought forward to all members of council so they can see it.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson, for that information. I think it's great. It's exciting, and I think it's in the right place at the FAC. It's really just gives us a lot more confidence in the whole process, and having like an official PMO there, it's amazing. Thank you so much. With that, in terms of if we can move forward to receive items A1 and A2, may I have someone move by? Oh, I'm sorry, more questions? Sure, Councillor Gardner.
I have a comment on A2, which is the Heritage Advisory Committee. I would just like to note that the meeting was March 26th. Sorry, I'm not sure about that. With these minutes, they got to us very, very quickly. I don't even think it was a 2-week turnaround. And yet in March, the meeting was held March 4th, and these minutes were not ready for our March 19th General Committee meeting. And I feel that was an oversight, because March 21st, we had our very important meeting on Library Square. So through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Clerk, I see you did a much better job getting these to council quickly, and is that what we would be able to expect in the future, a 2-week turnaround?
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, if you could.
Through you, Madam Chair, we endeavor to get the minutes to council as quickly as possible.
Thank you, and I really appreciate that, as does the committee.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Gardner. All right, if there are no further questions or comments, we have a motion to move items, to receive items A1 and A2. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gallo, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to the regular agenda. Each item needs to be discussed. If we move forward, item R1, may I have someone move this forward? Councillor Gardner, second. Councillor Gilliland. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Oh, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to Ms. McDougall. Ms. McDougall, we allocated the $103,400 in this year's budget. Certainly, I don't think we anticipate using all of it at this point in time, because you indicated that staff wouldn't come on until June. But just out of curiosity, what would be the salary range for that sport development officer? And so for when we go into 2020 and continue it, what would be sort of the budget for the continuation of the sport plan?
Ms. McDougall?
Right. Thank you, through Madam Chair. With regards to this position that's being proposed, it would still have to go through evaluation through HR. However, we are evaluating it internally in our department based on similar positions that we have as coordinator levels. And this position, starting salary would be $69,000 plus benefits, would equate to about $83,000 including benefits. leaving a difference between the budget of just over 103,000. So there'd be approximately 20,000 for implementation costs, is how we see it. So as a go-forward opportunity, certainly for this year, 2019, we would not be using the entire amount, obviously we wouldn't be starting or commencing till 6 months into the year. So that this year would result in a bit of a surplus from that budget. However, going as a go-forward, it would be our anticipation we'd be asking for the full amount, with the understanding it'd be for the position plus the implementation cost, but staying within the 103 that was originally proposed.
Thank you. My only other comment really was with regards to the reprioritizing of some of the aspects of the sport plan and the comments around sport tourism. Last night we had a little bit of a priority session, and we talked about economic development and so forth, and so I still see sport tourism fitting within one of the key principles that this council has talked about from an economic development perspective. Yes, I understand that there's a little bit of an overlap there with what is currently underway with the Economic Development Corp and the Economic Development Strategy and tourism as well. But I don't necessarily want to see sport tourism pushed too far to the side. I still think it is very much a prominent issue for this council. We talked about it at length with the Hallmark lands and whether it be 1-and-1 or 2 baseball fields. We continue to talk about it with regards to multi-purpose fields and sort of that vision. And so while I understand that not all of the amenities or facilities are in place to really make a drive today, I still just make sure that it's still somewhere near the forefront in terms of our priority settings for sport tourism.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I was never a big proponent of hiring internal hire for the role of a sports coordinator. You know, this report states that the following benefits of hiring an internal sports coordinator. It said tactics developed to meet deliverables that are realistic, achievable, and efficient, regular reporting to town senior management, resources and collaboration from corporate colleagues, and a clear work plan with defined responsibilities and timelines and the tools available to achieve them. And you know, I'm just wondering, how would hiring an in-house coordinator make deliverables more realistic and achievable? Like, are consultants dreamers or previous stakeholders that we use not realistic in their goals? You know, through you, Madam Chair, to Ms. McDougall, you know, how would hiring internally change some of the benefits that we've enjoyed or will continue to enjoy?
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you. With regards to the resource being in-house, there certainly are benefits just from regular contact continuity as it relates to their access to other staff personnel that we have available. As well, just from the setting objectives and working with our manager directly as it relates to the portfolio of the sport plan. There's certainly more touch points that we can be more readily on top of or available to this position. As well, just from an in-house perspective, certainly they have access to what we have access to. So from our communications division, from our supports within IT, through supports within the finance division, wherever the resources are available with all of our town staff, this position would have access to that as well as a support for them to facilitate the actions that they may have. Certainly from our contacts perspective, we have an extensive list our own in-house that and resources with various nonprofit agencies, organizations, school boards that our staff already meet with. This would just be an additional layer to that, where our sports and community development officer would have an opportunity to have the same access to those resources.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
Thank you. You know, this process of working towards a sport plan, you know, gathering volunteers, you know, and the you know, the sports communities, you know, reminds me of another project, which is the cultural partners and staff. You know, we hired an external consultant to spearhead that. My understanding is that it's going well, and that seems to, you know, mirror what we're trying to do here to in a certain respect. And through you, Madam Chair, you know, has it been considered hiring an external consultant, and what are some of the drawbacks that you considered, which resulted in that that recommendation not coming forward?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Madam Chair. Certainly from the acquisition or use of a consultant as a third-party arm's length is helpful, and from your reference or comparison to the cultural master plan development and getting it off the ground, keeping in mind that we're working towards hiring a project leader for the Library Square project that would ultimately be responsible for the implementation of the master plan. So that would be a staff position that we're working towards that will continue to facilitate that implementation of the master plan. The consultants would be certainly, as it's related to the sport plan, like we've seen here, we're involved with the development of, but ultimately handing that off to staff to come develop and follow through on and evaluate as we go forward with the sport plan. So it's a parallel in a similar case. There are certainly elements of third-party value, but in this case as well, there's opportunities here where we see benefit of having an in-house staff being readily available to us.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall. Councillor Kim?
Thank you. And we knew before the report, and certainly the report contains it, that there are a few sport councils in existence today. And it seems that a certain portion of the coordinator's role would be to manage the fluidity and the forward inertia of the sport council. The challenges that staff presents in the report are likely reasons there are a few sport councils today anyway. And so therefore, I guess my question would be, why hire an in-house sport coordinator when the full responsibilities and capacities of the internal hire won't be fully reached until a few years down the road?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Madam Chair, if I follow your question, I'm doing my best. I think what I understand you to be asking is, although staff are not recommending moving forward with a sport council in its formal setting, we see other resources that we have access to, certainly through our own advisory committees locally. We have ad hoc committees that we're involved with. We also, through recommendation, potentially through Mayor's Roundtable, there's other sources of committee structures or available that could provide advice to the staff member. Wouldn't have to necessarily be a sport council in the formal sense. We also know from our own experiences, which we interact with the sports groups on a seasonal basis, our own staff have regular meetings with them, whether they are summer seasonal sports or the winter season sports, bringing them in and working with them as it relates to their activities on a seasonal basis. So whether it's ice sports or field sports, those would be committees or working groups that we would have, this individual would also have access to, that are already in existence. So they're not necessarily, again, a formal council. They are more a working advisory support capacity for our staff member. I'm hoping that answers or supports what you're trying to say.
Yes, thank you. I was trying my best to be Mr. Ramuno. My last question is, in the report, it talks about the experiences and the relationships that current rec staff have. So is that alluding to the possibility that we have a large pool of qualified candidates in-house and the hiring may very well be in-house, or is this going to be open to external hires?
Ms. McDougall?
Through Madam Chair, we would expect the individual to come with sports background, sports knowledge, sport development, whether it is having not just being an athlete per se, having that background, but being involved in sport, whether it's from a volunteer capacity or sitting on a board, a local board. It is a little different than some of our other staff that we have in-house. However, the degree and diplomas that are available to recreation and culture staff are similar, that feed into a sports mandate or sports model, whether it be for recreational sport or recreational activities, or whether it be for sport organizations. So the skill sets of what we have in-house, what we're referring to is that the mindsets are very similar. The healthy, active living mindset, the opportunities to teamwork and work together and collaborate, those are the additional skill sets that our team, what we're saying in-house, have. Could one of the in-house candidates we have that in existence apply for this position and be qualified? Quite possibly, because again, with a recreation or sports leadership degree, some of the staff we have now may carry that.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mayor Marakis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to say, it's just as far as when it comes to the sports tourism aspect of it, I agree. We don't want to lose and put that aside. The three priorities that we set and we spoke about last night, Library Square, downtown revitalization, smart growth, and economic development. And as we have the new Economic Development Corporation in place, that's one of the examples of where, as Ms. McDougall mentioned, we're hiring an in-house staff member for this position. They'd be able to have access and work closely with the corporation and look at furthering that sports tourism aspect within the total tourism picture for the town. So I think it's a great way for us to move forward on that piece. So I'm looking forward to it, and so thank you for the report, Ms. McDougall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. Through Madam Chair to Ms. McDougall. One of the things that's going to get lower priority here is sports for older adults. And the reason given is that it's been quite a focus and quite successful under the current program. Can you speak to what Older Adults Network is?
Ms. McDougall?
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair. The reason this was put sort of as not on a side or on a lower priority is just because there is a significant amount of work that is already being done and being looked after through the efforts and work of Activate Aurora that initiated the program along with our staff. Our staff are planning to continue on with that work with the Older Adult Network. And it is literally a network of resources of a local volunteer group of individuals that have expertise in the area, whether it's through health or whether it's through medical or whether it's through just general interest in seeing active, healthy adults. There's a lot of resources on that committee that see initiatives that we can run forward with. So it doesn't necessarily have to be defined by sport, but it can be defined by physical activity. And so from a priority perspective, we feel that some of that is already being achieved, but again, evaluating the sport competitive aspect versus just keeping the seniors active. And if I may, if it's not too inappropriate, I just wanted to speak to the sport tourism piece, and being that it is identified as something being in our minds lower on a priority piece. It was only from the intent that we feel number one priority is to develop the sport policy. We feel that that's going to help drive a lot more of the decisions. Sport tourism will still elevate itself and be information and pieces that we will be looking into, but the policy, the sport policy, is something that we feel will help define that even further in the cooperative and collaborative work that's being done right now with the Economic Development Action Plan that's taking place. So it's not going to be lost, we're not dropping it, it's just reorganizing the what comes first.
Thank you for clarifying that. Going back to what you said about the Older Adults Network and the excellent volunteers that are there, but we're assuming that they want to continue with this work. Have you thought about what if they don't?
Through you, Madam Chair, absolutely. Not only do the volunteers want to continue, but our staff are quite eager to continue with it.
Good.
And with respect to the role of the sport community, of course, Sport Aurora has to play an important part. You also mentioned the business community. Why are we including I assume you're meaning the business sport community, or just the business community in general?
Ms. McDougall?
Through Madam Chair, there's a variety of ways of involving the business community in sport. Sport in itself, from a tourism perspective, has a natural tendency to be a business and getting them involved, whether it be through sponsorship side, just knowing that that's a part of an amateur sport or nonprofit sport organization's need in the community to have that connection and relationship with business. But also there's another way to look at the word is the actual business of operating a nonprofit sport organization. If there's any roles or capacities that the municipality can support in that, whether it be through just simply volunteer development, or whether it is some resources as it may relate to sport development organizations. And that's something that the town can certainly help facilitate through some of the resources we have access to.
Thank you. I was just wondering if it meant or running business, people who are running businesses now that have to do with sport. if they are also going to be consulted, and I'm not sure that that would be appropriate.
Okay.
Through Madam Chair, that is certainly not our focus. Our focus would be on the nonprofit sports. However, keeping in mind that sport in general, most of them are nonprofit, but there are in the community some profitable businesses that operate some sports, but they will play a part, but not the focus of what our the sport plan is geared towards.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. And also, from my point of view, I just rather look at keeping seniors active and healthy as opposed to promoting competitive sport. And I think that the Senior Center does some of that right now. So.
Thank you. Oh, sure.
If I may, Madam Chair, just to add to that, from a sport perspective, we don't want to lose the concept that competition in seniors, even though getting them active is the #1 priority, they still enjoy competition, whether it be through pickleball tournaments or through badminton or walking. So we don't want to lose that as one of the opportunities that are available to our seniors.
Great. Thank you. Is it Councilor Gardner? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right. Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Let's move on to item number R2. May I have move the motion forward for item 2? Councilor Thompson, second. May I have a second? Sure. Oh, Councilor Gilliland. Any comments or questions? All right. Oh, all right. Councilor Gardner.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of comments about the report and some of the things that are said. How this changing this use of the Canadian Tire fits in with the York Region official plan and the Town of Aurora official plan. And in fact, the Yonge Street strip is, I believe, mostly talking about residential intensification. And it certainly deals with promoting public transit on that corridor. So, you know, I would hope that at some point we're looking at how to use that public transit appropriately through encouraging residents and businesses to use it. Also, we're talking about changing the zoning to from restaurants ancillary and food services ancillary to being the primary use. Who am I talking to here? Am I talking to you, Mr. Director?
Through Madam Chairman, I am the guy, yes.
You are the guy. So, it says that it's the new proposed uses are generally conform with the permitted uses in our OPA and in the region's OPA. But I think it's quite a change because both of them are, from what I can see, are talking about ancillary uses to now primary uses. If you could comment on that.
Through you, Madam
Chair.
Through Madam Chair. Currently, the property has a very restrictive zoning on it, which is just to permit a Canadian Tire type of store with some ancillary restaurant uses. However, in order to make the property more marketable at the end of the day, the applicant has come in and expanded the range of uses for the property. They do conform to the official plan, and you're quite correct that the official plan and the York Region official plan do provide for higher order uses. At this point in time, the site is not ready to move in that direction, but those development rights are within the official plans of both the region and the town.
Thank you. Councilor Gardner.
Thank you. On the public comments on page 13, they wouldn't be happy about having bars and adult entertainment parlors, tattoo parlors. So I'm assuming, or I shouldn't be assuming, that that is not the intent of the owners.
Mr. Waters.
Through you, Madam Chairman, that is correct.
And also, there's a tri-party agreement between the owners and, well, really, I don't know who was here, but there was a problem with the lighting of that secondary road going down from Yonge to Mosaics. And when it was Canadian Tire, there was an agreement in place, and that really was important because it was a safety issue. So do you have any idea what will be happening with respect to that?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Madam Chairman, that is a private agreement, so I'm not privy to that. But I suspect it will continue as it has in the past.
It was quite a fight, so I don't think we should expect that. But if you wouldn't mind looking into that, because it's not a lot of money, and I think somebody, either the town or the owners of the property, have to pay for that in order to promote the safety for Mosaics.
Through you, Madam Chairman, just to close the loop on that question, this still has to go through a site plan approval process.
Okay.
So we can deal with that issue through that process.
Sure, great, thank you.
Thank you very much. And one of the difference is if we change the zoning, is outside storage and display of goods and materials, temporary seasonals, outdoor storage. Well, in fact, that Canadian Tire was using quite a bit of the parking area for that. So, and that was a problem. They were using it for their garden center. It wasn't a problem in that there wasn't enough traffic to the Canadian Tire store to really make it a problem, but with this kind of a use, we're going to need all the parking we get. And I think the parking standard has already been lowered, or it's suggested that the parking standard would already be lowered.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Madam Chairman, my understanding is the parking will be reconfigured.
But if these are hopefully very busy and profitable businesses, we're going to have a lot of people wanting to come. So that would be looked at in the site plan stage.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Madam Chairman, yes, we will confirm parking arrangements and configuration through the site plan approval process.
Thank you. My main concern with this, and I believe it's the concern of the residents or many of the residents who live there, one is the drive-through function at the northeast corner. The noise that's going to create the traffic, but I think it's mostly going to be the noise. That residential area is just practically on top of the building in the northeast corner. And the other thing is they're talking about loading zones. I've had, unfortunately, a lot of experience with noise from loading zones in residential. Is there such a thing as having that interior, like having the trucks be able to drive into an enclosed structure that's only open at one side? Because when it's completely open, the sound, I mean, it can be constant depending upon the type of business. And the sound does carry, and there's a lot of bedroom windows right there.
Through you, Madam Chairman, noise and loading and screening will be dealt with through site plan approval. However, we do have a noise bylaw, so the unloading and loading of goods will be controlled from that perspective. I can't speak to the request about sort of housing the loading area, but I can bring that comment forward through the site plan process and see what we can do.
Thank you. I think that'd be very important to the residents, and also the drive-through. I mean, we do have a drive-through bank in that general area, in that property, but it's a whole different thing having a drive-through restaurant. That's all I have for the moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Gartner. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was hoping I could get some more clarity around it complying to particularly the town's OP and the Promenade General that speaks to pedestrian-oriented area through the induction of higher densities and high to mid-rise forms placed close to the street while providing appropriate transitions. And it also speaks to, in the promenade focus area, well, it speaks to in the general, while new development within the designated will be mostly residential in use at grade retail, along with restaurants, entertainment, and cultural venues. I'm just wondering whether, if we move forward with this, does it prohibit any future development that complies more specifically to the promenade plan?
Through you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Gallo, you're quite correct. The long-term vision for the promenade is higher densities. It's at-grade retail. It's very much a pedestrian-orientated type of development. However, the applicant is not moving in that direction at this point in time. But as I said previously, they do have those development rights in the official plan at the moment. I should also point out that this is a strategic growth area in the York Region official plan. As part of that process, we will need to pre-zone these lands eventually. And at that time, we will basically conform the zoning bylaw to the Aurora official plan, also the York Regional official plan. So those uses will be coming. We're mandated to pre-zone these lands in the balance of the strategic growth area, which is essentially Yonge Street.
Sorry, as a follow-up, just could you define pre-zone and what does that mean?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Madam Chair, and pre-zoning is essentially conforming the zoning bylaw to the uses in the official plan. So that would be, in this case, adding the high-density residential, the at-grade commercial. That currently is not in the zoning bylaw.
So I guess back to my original question, if we allow this, does it prohibit any of that to be done in the future?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Madam Chairman, no, it does not. We can still proceed with that process when the time is right.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I envisioned something different on this site, particularly when it comes to the promenade study and all the work that was done. And I just feel like we're getting just more big box. And that doesn't sit too well with me.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. And I'm not sure if it's appropriate this time, but just to follow up on that, Mr. Waters, is there any opportunity for you to discuss just that type of evolution with the current owners to see if they'd be interested in perhaps doing something a little bit more conducive to the OP versus just reusing the existing?
Through you, Madam Chairman, we can have that conversation with the applicant. I would point out that this is essentially an interim use. Okay. The only investment they're really going to make is through the development of a freestanding restaurant right at the north corner of the site, which will have some life expectancy in terms of its building. But I think at the end of the day, it will be moving into a different direction. It's just a timing issue. Okay,
great, thank you. So, maybe Councillor Gallo, maybe it's just a timing thing. Eventually, you'll get that vision. Oh, you do one more? Sure, go ahead, Councillor Gallo.
Sometimes I see these happening, and while I heard and I trust that the intent is to lease the spaces out, and I'm not sure. We asked what the long-term vision is, if it is to comply with a lot of the work we did with the promenade. At times it's done to add value to the building, and I have no issues with that. In its current state, it's very restrictive, and I would agree with that. Although my comfort level isn't very high, and is there an opportunity to go through the site plan process prior to the rezoning of the properties, so that mine and perhaps others' confidence would be slightly higher if the commitment from the owners to go through the site plan process prior to us doing the rezoning? I know it's not common, however, it's definitely been done before.
Mr. Waters, do you have any comments?
Through you, Madam Chairman, the applicant has decided to take a two-stage approach, which is the rezoning first and then the site plan. My experience has been that for other files that they're submitted concurrently because they somewhat influence each other at the end of the day. But that's the choice of the applicant.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think my preference at least would be that. If I had a choice, it would be to go through the site plan process prior to the rezoning of the property. So I will sit and ponder that for the time being.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through to Mr. Waters. With regards to the Smart Center property adjacent to them, which also has a C4 designation, you supplied us with a chart that sort of says what they're proposing versus what's existing. Is there much difference in terms of what they're proposing to do on the Canadian Tire site with regards to their C4 zoning when compared to the adjacent property to the north that the Smart Center has in terms of their zoning and uses?
Mr. Waters.
Through you, Madam Chairman, I would suspect that they will complement each other. It'll be a similar type of tenant mix.
And I guess that's my expectation as well. I certainly think it's in line with what's around them. You know, I mean, it's hard to distinguish between one property versus another. It sort of flows into one another. And while I would agree that there was a lot of us that thought this would be an excellent opportunity for other types of development, I know they did have the property for sale for a period of time. They were trying to perhaps move in that direction. There are some other issues we may not be privy to, but at the end of the day, that's what the applicants come forward with.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Kim for the first time. Go back to Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. A couple of questions first through you to Madam Chair to Mr. Waters. Some of the new potential uses talks about the drive-through facility, and it says just the one-word club, and I know somewhere else it talks about fitness clubs, but are they one and the same thing, or is club meant to be something else?
Mr. Waters?
Repeat the first part of your question.
Yeah, on page 3 of the report, it talks about a C4 zoning will include a drive-through facility and club is one of the bullets. So I just assumed it was going to be fitness center, but I know somewhere else in the report it specifically mentions fitness center there as well. So can you confirm what the club is?
Through you, Madam Chairman, I believe it would be a community type club.
Never heard of that. What is that?
Like sorry, Mr. What is this? Like a fitness type or? Oh, like a Lions Club, that type of thing?
Just looking at the right page here.
It's okay. You can get back to us.
Yeah, if you want
by next week.
Sure.
So
Before next week, we have a.
So, through Madam Chairman, I can have a response for you for next week.
Sure. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And my next question is, so I wasn't sure when I was reading the report whether the existing footprint would change, but during this discussion it seems more and more apparent that the footprint of that property will change. Can you confirm that?
Through you, Madam Chairman, I believe the balance of the footprint will remain the same. I think they're going to be doing some modification at the back or to the side of the building regarding the loading doors.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I think it's rare that any municipality gets exactly what they want. I mean, certainly, I agree with Councillor Gallo that given that this is the southern bookend of our promenade, and we certainly hope for something that would be fitting the north end. But I mean, we already have, like you mentioned, the sister, mall area just immediately to the north. So this isn't going to change anything, and certainly the plans that they have here are certainly better than leaving it vacant. It does satisfy a lot of the the regional priorities, such as talks about the transportation plans, and certainly Yonge Street is a major corridor, and we often complain about YRT and Viva buses being half empty. So certainly this will do a lot towards that end. This will certainly develop more foot traffic, customers and people to the southern end, and we always hear about people in the south not having as many amenities as those residents in other parts of the town. So this will certainly be more of a positive than a negative, certainly. So, I don't really have any real issues with this. I hope that staff will continuously have a dialogue going with the Canadian Tire Corporation, so that the site plans and maybe the external facade, the designs will be more kind of in sync with what we hope for. But in terms of the zoning change, I think that's kind of separate from what aesthetically what it could look like. So I'm all for it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you. I forgot to ask on page 14, with respect to the residents' comments about soil contamination. So, I mean, it's no secret that there is soil contamination here because of Sterling Drug. But what you're saying is that because it's just the building that's going to, or the footprint of the building that's going to be changed for another use. There doesn't have to be, what did you call it? A risk, a site condition assessment?
Through you, Madam Chairman, because there's a non-sensitive use or uses being proposed, there is not that issue that comes up. So it's not required in this case.
Thank you.
Great. And thank you very much, Councillor Gartner. Mayor Marakis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just kind of want to give some history and some context to what's said. Last term, this came in front of us. I believe it probably would have passed at the time, but we found out that it was for sale, and so we said that, go away and come back. The property was for sale for some time, and I think the thought is that whoever did pick it up, we would end up with probably some mixed-use residential mid to high rise within that area, kind of to speak to the promenade plan. It's unfortunate those deals fell through, so here we are. So, I think at the end of the day, while we would all like to see it move forward in that direction, as Councillor Kim mentioned, I think it's better off that something be there, be open, instead of it being vacant and empty. We've complained many times about the Canadian Tire being vacant and empty, so I'd rather see some stores in there available to the residents in the area instead of being empty. And I think as we move forward, I'm sure that down the road, more people will kind of look into the area and then possibly look at picking up this property and maybe looking at changing its use at that time. So,
great. Thank you, Mayor Marakis. Seeing no further comments or questions, let's call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item R3. May I have, oh yes, sorry. Yes, Councillor Thompson? Sure.
May I make a suggestion? We move R6 forward.
Sure.
We did have a delegation. They are here.
Absolutely. If you'd like to put that motion forward, may I have a second to move? Mayor Marakis, all in favor to move item 6 forward? Carries. Let's move item R6 on forward. May I have a mover for R6? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gilliland. Comments or questions for R6? That the information be received for information. No comments or questions? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's move back to item R3. I have someone move forward item R3. Sorry. Oh, may I do that? Oh, moving the motion. Yeah. May I put R3 back on the floor? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Gartner. Any comments or questions about R3. Okay, Councillor Gallo?
I'm just was trying to find it. Sorry, 1 second. I got it. I guess some of my questions, I tried to find the budget sheet for this item, and it wasn't 2019, and it was I guess as a last approval as part of the 2018 final budget. It wasn't part of the well, that didn't show up in the final budget of the 2018. I did manage to find it on the repair maintenance projects planning development in 2018. It does show up in previous, I think all the way up to 2014, with an amount of in 2015 it was 4.7 million, and as well as in 2016 it was 4.7 million, and somehow it got down to 3.6 for the same project, and now we are we under budgeted for this by 365,000. And there's really no explanation in the report at all, quite frankly, of why we're over budget. It does say that we split the project into two. I don't know why that happened. There's no explanation of why the projects were split. And I guess technically, if a budget was approved for 3.6 million, and if we thought that this budget item was not going to be approved or had to come back to council, which it has, why wouldn't it have come back as an entire project? Why would we split it, do some of it, part of it, and then come back to council and ask for an increase for what's deemed to be a second phase, although the budget sheets don't indicate any phasing of this project? It just doesn't make sense to me. First of all, I have no idea why it's $365,000 over budget, because there's no explanation for that. Secondly, it was one project, yet we deemed it was okay to divide the project, go ahead with a part of the project, and then come back to council with the second part saying we need more money. So I'm hoping someone can shed some light.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Mr. Waters, if you can help
And I
us
realize
through
Mr.
this
Waters
one.
isn't, it's got to be new for you, but I need some answers.
Through you, Madam Chairman, I can't comment on the previous budget submissions because I wasn't here. But with regards to Councillor Gallo's question about the structuring of the project, it's my understanding that this is essentially a shave and what it was called, shave and pave. That's what the engineers call it. And because of the size of the project, it was split into two. That was what I was advised of that decision. And that the reason why you're asking for an additional funds is that the initial sort of costing of it was based on the previous year's unit prices.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo.
Well, I've clearly demonstrated that up to 2016, the budget was 4.7 million. And for some reason between 2016 and when it came back in 2018, late last term, approved it, the budget item went down to 3.6 million for the same project. Not to mention, while the recommendations says that the total budget is 3.6 million, we're actually taking an additional 50,000 from 159,000 from the AODA account, so that we're saying that we're only 360,000, but we're actually 360,000 plus 159,000 over budget. So this just does not sit very well with me. If council approved a project, regardless of the size of it, at the time it was presented to council, it should have either been split then and separate budgeted or multiple year, whatever the process could have been. But a project was presented to council, a budget was given, part of the project was completed, or at least went out to tender, and tender was given to the same contractor, by the way, so I don't know the details around the tender. And then we split a project, and then the second half of the project, we need 365 plus 159. So
Thank you.
I think between now and next week, I'd like some more information on,
Thank you,
on how this went about.
Yeah, I agree. I think for staff, if we can take this information into consideration and have something to us before next meeting, that would be great. Some history and understanding why this sort of occurred the way it did. Thank you, Councillor Gallo, for bringing this forward. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. I'll do my best to provide some little bit of background. So this project, as well as 10 other capital projects, were presented to us in April as part of an in-year capital budget. Tonight's report should have referenced that one. It was presented to us in April because these were works that they wanted to move forward with over the fall and into the winter, and because it was an election year and that we wouldn't do the budget until the new council comes and it would be delayed, and that's why they approached council last term and said, you know, hey, here's these projects, they're on the radar, here, we'd like to move forward with them. Council did approve them. Granted, I do agree with Councillor Gallo, it would be good to have some more indication as to why there is a variance, what is the increase, and get those details. But, you know, the information was there in front of council. It was $3.3 million to do all this work, and they did proceed, obviously, with some of it in terms of the phase one, and now they're back. And so I'd like to see that additional information as well. But that's part of the backstory, is that report from April 17th, which perhaps could also be circulated to all members of council again, just for their reference.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Appreciate that information as well. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted, I had the same question about the AODA budget. I don't, unless we're doing a traffic signal here, I don't know what we would be using that money for. It's not familiar to me that we've ever done anything like this, unless we're doing some specialized crosswalks. So it's page 3, it's the second financial implication.
Mr. Waters?
Sorry, Mr. Waters, I should have been clear.
If we need another week, that's fine too, but if you have
for next
an
week,
understanding. Sure. Oh, perfect. Sure.
The councillor with some information on that. That account is being accessed because some of the intersections are being, or some of the accessibility features are being incorporated within the shave and pave, such as the I call them a Lego kind of for the walk, so you can feel, so people who can't see. Yeah. And I believe there is a signal as well that will make a sound as well. So that's why that money has been accessed.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I need for an answer. I don't remember ever seeing it in a budget like this, though.
Thank you. Is that it, Councillor Gardner? further
No, I'm
questions?
fine with that. I'm just
Okay.
trying to think. Usually the funding, the AODA brings this, or sorry, the Accessibility Advisory Committee, through them somehow, they talk about the different signals for, in this case, it would be for somebody who is visually impaired, and it comes forward as a separate item from the committee itself. So that's just why I don't really understand why it's in this format, but it's all the same money, so.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Councilor Gardner. Any other comments or questions on this item? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We can move item R4. It's a presentation. Yes, may I? We have a presentation this evening provided by Mr. Downey, Director of Operations Services, and Derek Alley, President, DFA Infrastructure International, Inc. So if you'd like to go ahead, Mr. Downey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to introduce Derek. Derek's a professional engineer with a master's degree in business administration, has over 33 years experience as a professional engineer in Canada and overseas. He was instrumental in preparing the town of Lincoln's backflow prevention program and bylaw, which was one of the first programs to be prepared in Ontario. And he is presently working with both Newmarket and ourselves. We entered into a piggyback contract with Newmarket. He has already made presentations to Newmarket on their backflow prevention program, and I'd like to welcome Derek to the podium and walk you through what we feel is a very important program, and we would like this to be the first step in the implementation of this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. My name is Derek Alley. I'm with DFA Infrastructure. And tonight I'm just going to talk to you briefly about the backflow prevention program that we've developed in collaboration with staff at the town. You could call it protection of your drinking water system and public health and safety program, because that's really what it's about. This evening is just to let you know about the program, what it's about, what some of the proposed consultation activities would be for with the stakeholders internally and externally, and to get some feedback from members of council. There is a report, as you know, in front of you for approval tonight as well. So we would just go through a bit of background on backflow prevention and what some of the key features and of the program would entail, and some of the next steps at the end. What is backflow? This is not to be confused with, you might have heard of the backwater valves for sewage systems. It's not that at all. This has to do with your water system. And under normal circumstances, water flows through the pipe into the private properties through the service connections, which is a normal flow of water. You could get situations where maybe you're using a hydrant for firefighting purposes, or there's a main break, or perhaps in a industrial facility there's a high pressure due to pumping internally. You could get reversal of flow back from the private properties back into the water distribution system. That occurrence can be more frequent than we might think, and during those circumstances the system is exposed to possible contamination depending on what's in the private property's plumbing system. So there is a risk that you could get contaminants coming back into the water system and then being redistributed to residents and other users. So to protect against that, there's a backflow preventer. It's a device. It's sort of a double check valve, different types of systems that's put in right at the property, right after the meter, and that prevents water from returning from the private plumbing back into the drinking water system. So that really is the essence of this program. this is an example here of a cross connection. And a cross connection is where you have your internal plumbing, potable water that's connected to process plumbing, and there's no valving or anything in between. Water flows back and forth from one to the other. So depending on what's on the process side, you could get some contaminants if it's cooling water, whatever it might be. There's a risk that depending on what it is, it could come back in to your drinking water system. So why is a program needed? Well, there is some legislation. As you know, the Safe Drinking Water Act has been around for almost 20 years now, since Walkerton, and Section 19 should be of interest to you. It deals with the standard duty of care, and it really talks about the obligations of councils, operators of municipal systems, and really the, I guess, the liability that you're exposed to with respect to your drinking water systems. So that's a key driver. The Ontario Building Code, Section 7, since 2009, has required the installation of backflow preventers at commercial industrial properties. So when you think of it today, there are properties out there already since 2009. The new ones that came on board would have these backflow preventers already installed. So what we are talking about here is going beyond just the installation, but rather continuing with the testing and reporting back to the town that would ensure that the system is always protected, that those preventers are always working. There's also the Ministry of the Environment. Formerly, it's now called the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, and in their monthly inspections and so on, they've recommended to the town, as they have with other municipalities, that a backflow prevention program be installed, be established. So you're not alone. There are probably over close to 50 municipalities that have these programs already in place in Ontario, and it's becoming more and more commonplace and best practice to do it. There's also the question of customer confidence in your drinking water quality, which is great. So you want to keep it, keep the quality of the water right up there in accordance with all the standards. And as part of that, you do have your drinking water quality management system, which is mandatory. And this is just a piece of that, and it's very consistent with your policy on the drinking water quality management system, which is a commitment to maintaining public health and safety and the quality of your drinking water system. So this is Section 19 here. It's just an excerpt from the Act itself, which tells you the underlying italic sections sort of gives you the gist of it. You must exercise a level of care, diligence, and skill, act honestly, competently, etc. And then you can see down at number 3 at the bottom, if a system is owned by a municipality, every person who on behalf of the municipality oversees the accredited operating authority of the system exercises decision-making authority over the system. And every such person may be guilty of an offense or may be convicted of an offense if there is a problem. So it takes just one instance. So what are the key features of the program? It'll apply to non-residential and multi-residential. And the reason for multi-residential, sometimes you do have internal pumping. And because of that, you can perhaps have a higher pressure at times. There are approximately 600 properties that would be affected, some of which already have these devices installed. And there are also properties that may be connected to other water sources, which may also bring in contaminants. They're not part of the town system, so protection against those. And also, the town reserves the right to apply this program to any property that may pose a risk, residential or non-residential, depending on the use. There's also the obligations of the property owner, which most of the program, the way it's set up is the town would administer and the property owners would do. So the key things here, as shown here, is the town would be ensuring customer awareness, raising the profile of the need to have backflow preventers and to test them and so on and so forth. The customers would be asked to, the property owners would be asked to undertake customer surveys, property surveys, and what that means really is having a certified plumber go in, look at the internal plumbing system to see what the risks are, where there might be cross connections, and to have those have that evaluated and report back with a survey saying, here's what they found and here's the risk that's associated with that specific property. That risk is in accordance with the Canadian Standards Association Standard 64, I believe, that sets out how you determine the risk depending on the property use. Some of the other obligations would be once the backflow preventers are installed, the owner has to ensure that it's tested and that it works properly and report that test back to the town. And those tests, you would see later on in another slide that it would be done annually. The surveys would be requested every 5 years. So, the proposed timelines for the program would be to have the consultation with the stakeholders, i.e. the property owners, sometime in May or June, and then have the program finalized based on the feedback that we get. And this slide here shows just the timelines for the key components of the program. The surveys by the end of the year, this year, backflow preventers by September of 2020, if they're needed. So when the survey is done, after that time, then you'll know if that particular property requires a preventer. If it doesn't, then great. They do another one 5 years from now. If they do, they've got till 2020 to do it. In terms of the town, the administration would be, the building services would be dealing with the installations, the new installations, and then Public Works would be dealing with the follow-up with all the testing and following up with the property owners to make sure that these devices continue to work and protect the system. There would be the requirement for one staff person to administer the program once it gets up and running and normalizes, and this can possibly be shared depending on what other activities are required in other areas, that there could be a possibility of a sharing with another function. So again, this slide shows the obligations of the property owners. One of them is really to have ensure that they have certified testers come in and do the testing on their behalf and then report back to the town. And as mentioned earlier, we have some sort of plan for contacting and liaising with the stakeholders, the property owners, and this slide describes some of them. And then we had some internal conversations with some of the staff and different departments, building services, legal, communications in March of this year to get some input internally. And then tonight to speak to you about it, to see if you have any feedback on the program. So in terms of the activities, we're looking at a website, using the website, putting some information up there, directing people there, doing some direct mail, working through the local business associations, trying to contact the non-residential community directly and soliciting their feedback. Hopefully we can have an open house sometime in May or June, and then based on the feedback from that, we can modify the program to suit. And this slide shows the timelines I mentioned earlier about the timing of the information. And if there are any questions, Madam Chair, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them.
Great. Thank you very much for a very informative presentation. We have some questions for you, starting with Mr. Mayor Marakis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, why not residential?
Residential, they do pose a risk. Every property does, but it's looking at the ones that pose the higher risk, and that would be the non-residential sector, of course. So the way the programs are set up, it's non-residential first. You could bring in residential later if it's deemed to be a problem, but by and large, it's not a problem on the residential side. Under the bylaw, you would be allowed to specifically deal with any specific residential property if it becomes a risk.
Okay, thank you. And Madam Chair, just to follow up as well. I mean, we all understand the Safe Drinking Water Act and under Section 19, what it states as far as our duties. And I know that we also have our town's quality management system policy as well, and it speaks to a lot of those issues as far as what we're responsible for. So to me, it seems like it's our duty to go down this road and do this and implement this. Yep. And so I'm just wondering why, if that's the case, then why are there only 40 municipalities that are doing this out of 444? It seems like such a low number.
It does, and I think when we started, and I think Lincoln was probably, I don't know, 15 years ago, it was a very different environment at the time. Now I think it's best practice. So even though a lot of municipalities don't have it, it's coming. Like they are all considering through some form or another to have these programs put in place. So I think 5 years from now, many more will be doing these, having these programs in place.
So we'll probably see that number closer to the 300 mark, maybe.
It depends on if they have a water system, right?
For sure. Thank you very much for coming out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gardner.
I agree with the first part of what the mayor said. And to me, this is, I don't like to use this term, but it's a no-brainer. I mean, we are responsible for the quality of our drinking water. With respect to the building code, with what the mayor was saying about residential properties, does a backflow device have to be installed for new residential properties?
No, it's just for the non-residential. Yeah.
Thank you. And I would say we've been lucky to date. If you can have problems with the use of a fire hydrant or a water main break, we certainly have a lot of those. So I think we've been under risk. But fortunately, we haven't had any problems. I'm not clear about this. Did we put a bylaw in place in 2014?
We'll
do that. Yes. We'll do that. Okay.
Just for the
thank you. I think it's a very important subject, and I thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, and thank you for the information. In terms of what you laid out, you talked about if the program's approved, then we're going to do some communication, some open houses, and educate people. But I'm just curious whether there was any consultation or public consultation in the development of the program with the businesses or some of the ones that you identified would need be.
I think that's what will be coming in May or after tonight. It's to go out and get the input of the property owners. I think what you may find is the way this program is set up, the components of this program is very consistent with what other programs look like. So there will be some uniqueness to deal with the issues that some of the property owners may bring forward, but that's the stage we are at now, is trying to get the information out there to them, have that feedback, and then we would modify the program accordingly. So it would be, for example, some may say that, we need a bit more time before we can really get the surveys done. Maybe December is too soon. Some may have specific issues at their properties where they don't have room to put in a proper backflow preventer, things like that. So these are the issues that will come forward, and then we can address those as part of the program as it's implemented.
So if we adopt it tonight, all that consultation will take place before any bylaw gets brought before this council? Is that what you're saying is the steps?
There is, you do have an existing bylaw that's been dormant, let's say. We do have a draft new bylaw to replace that one. That will come back to you, I would say probably in June, maybe, perhaps June, somewhere around there. So, which would be after the consultation.
Perfect. So the point I'm getting is, I think it's always good to understand, you know, both sides and hear from the business community and those impacted by it as well before council adopts the bylaw. And I just want to make sure there's that opportunity to hear that. In the other municipalities that have adopted it, what typically are the concerns raised by, you know, those that own those properties?
I think it's more clarification of what their obligations are. I think that's first and foremost. People just want to know, okay, what do I have to do to comply? And I think the other main thing is you do have unique situations that may arise where, like I mentioned earlier, where there's not physical room to put a backflow preventer in, or to have, you know, I guess access to it on a regular basis, or to have it tested. And so these are things that town staff would have to work directly with those specific property owners on. But that's more the off situation. Most already do it. In fact, I can tell you from Newmarket, even before the program is implemented, they are receiving test reports from some of the non-residential property owners. You know, they're just submitting them to the town, asking, you know, who do I send this to, because they are doing it already. So I think you will get questions, and that's why we do the awareness and the consultation sessions, because you will get some that may have questions, or even, you know, have some, you know, valid concerns about the program. But that's the whole idea of having the consultation, so that we can address those as they come forward.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Kim.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Alley, for coming out tonight. So a few questions. In Ontario, or in any region or municipality, how often does backflow issues occur?
The backflow occurs, the risk is there every time you have a main break, or if there's a fire, you are using a lot of water at a specific point in the distribution system, or if a private property has an internal pumping system that's operating at an elevated pressure that's above the pressure in your distribution system, so you can get flow coming back. So backflow occurs regularly, all the time. You have that opportunity. What doesn't occur all the time is the contaminants coming in with it. So that's what this program is about. You never know when, during a backflow situation, you could get a contaminant coming back in with the backflow. So there have been issues, examples of backflow. I think it was back in 2005 or 6, there was a Stratford car wash issue where there was soap getting back in from the car wash, and you know, people were complaining that they had this colored water coming through their taps. So that's just one example, but it's unpredictable. Like, you don't know when that kind of situation will occur. So that's why these programs are put in place.
Thank you. And certainly, you know, you have to prevent those types of risks. In terms of the municipalities' remediation, what are typically, like, when this occurs and there are contaminants, what are the costs? And I'm assuming that drinking water is offline. And so how long is drinking water put offline if something like this were to occur?
It would depend on where it occurs, the configuration of the distribution system, the valving, etc. Of course, the area would be isolated. There'd be, I guess, the emergency supply of drinking water to those residents that are shut off or turned off. and then of course you'd have to flush the system. So when you think about the cost of water from the region, you know, you'd be flushing quite a bit of water out that's just wasted. So until you know the precise situation, then you can see what the remediation would be in a situation like that, and how extensive the contaminant has reached, like how far into the system.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. I think you got me at York Region water costs right there. So. Given the importance, why do we stop at just new ICIs as opposed to existing industrial, commercial, institutional companies?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
On the report, it states that it's going to be we're going to make it mandatory if council approves for new industrial, commercial, and institutional companies within our borders. So it seems to indicate that existing ICI companies would not be obliged to have these preventers in place.
No, I think it's all.
It's all?
It's all.
Okay, wonderful.
The new ones are required under the building code.
Okay.
To put one in.
Okay, so it's just the.
But it's the existing that probably don't have them in place already.
That's where we have to get their buy-in and
that's
have
right.
the education.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay, thank you. And I guess just one comment is, it just seems that this is going to be an expensive project, and it seems like we're going to be hiring additional staff or two to have the annual maintenance and inspections. And it's going to be mandatory in the not too distant future by the province. So it's a good thing, but it's unfortunate that the province seems to regulate a lot to the municipalities, and we foot the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. For the first time, Councillor Gallo, and then we'll go to Councillor Gartner.
Thank you. Could we just get a clarification on that last one? I think the responsibility is going to be borne by the owners of the property, not us to oversee the annual inspections.
That is correct. So it would be, the town's role is going to be administrative. So the person that we've suggested be brought on board is to track, to make sure that the property owners are compliant, and do the follow-up that's necessary. So there may be cases where town staff may have to go out to do inspections, but that would be the off case. The way the program is designed to work is the property owner would hire someone who is certified by the Ontario Water Works Association to do that type of work, to go out and do the surveys and the testing and send the reports into the town.
So it's also my understanding that the City of Toronto has done this quite a long time ago, actually. I know of a building that I did in 2012, I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically a letter to us saying, do this by this date. Yeah. And it was high-rise condominiums, about a $30,000 cost. And I say that because while I don't think we have anything like that in the town, we really need to be mindful of time and giving people enough time to budget and to schedule and change the way they do things. I think it's incumbent upon us to do that work, because I could foresee people saying, you're forcing me to do this at a significant cost rather quickly. So we have to be mindful of that if we proceed. I was a little confused about multi-unit residential in terms of backflows, particularly if they have booster pumps. Those pumps typically, go in one direction, which is into the building. So even if they're at a higher pressure than the water coming in, unless they're shut down, I don't know how the water would flow the other way. But I'm not an engineer, and I take your word for it. I still think it's a good thing to have, but I never understood that. I understand it when, there's water breaks and fire trucks taking water from outside of the building and sucking it out, so to speak. The OBC mandated in 2009. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, 2009. Yeah.
So ever since then, any buildings that were built would have this currently.
That's right. Yes.
So we're talking about anything built prior to 2009, and we're saying the 600 number is total, including those that may have it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
My only other question is going to be about the bylaw in 2014. I'll ask that after as well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question, and maybe it was already addressed, but I don't recall seeing it. Just touching on the fact that the town is not responsible for maintaining the backflow once it's installed, and it only at the time of building, and if it were to be resold or renovated, correct?
That's right. If right now, if you are the property owner, you put overhaul your plumbing system or you build new, the building code requires you to put a backflow preventer in. And we are talking about IC&I, Madam Chair, IC&I properties. If the use changes or if the ownership changes, then it triggers another survey of that property, of that plumbing, to see what is going on. And then that would determine if they need to have a backflow preventer, if it's a severe risk, moderate risk, or minor risk.
Okay, so my follow-up to that, just to kind of get clarity. So in between that time, and it's the responsibility of the property owner, would that property owner then be responsible or accountable legally if something were to occur and there was some backflow that affected the community?
That's right.
They would be accountable for that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. No further questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Ali, for presenting tonight. Very informative, very important topic. Very much appreciate it. And before we bring the item on the table, I think we are a little late for our 5-minute break. So we're going to take 5 minutes now, and then we'll go to the 10 minutes, sorry. 10-minute break. We'll be back. So let's go to 9:20. We'll be back. Okay. That was only 5 minutes. Yeah. It's funny how we just have to do it. Push it a little bit. We could have just about finished. I don't know. I think yeah, that might take some time. Yeah, I think. All right, let's get back. Let's put R4, move it forward, backflow prevention program. May I have someone move this item forward? Councillor Gilliland, Mayor Marakis. Any comments or questions on this item? Councillor Gartner?
Thank you. I missed most of what you said, but I assume we're talking about R4.
R4. We just finished the presentation. Now
Right.
we're on the item.
On page 5, oh, first of all, I think this was a very good report, so I do not know the person that put it together. Thank you. It was a very good report. Thank you very much. Very thorough and easy to understand. I'm just going to start where my report opened. On page 5, it said there's approximately 600 properties, and of these, 164 approximately are considered high risk, which to me is shocking that we haven't gotten into trouble to date. Really, really glad about that. But there's also talk about doing town properties to set an example. I wasn't clear. Is that before we do these 600 properties? Or before we try and get these 164 properties to install the mechanisms they require?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, we're part of the problem. So there are facilities, town facilities, that do not have backflow preventers. So we are recommending that they be installed.
So it says staff also need to include several municipal facilities. We recommend that these facilities be first on the list for backflow device survey and retrofit, so we could lead the way. But I'm okay with that, but we're also going to attend to these other properties that could cause risk. It's okay to set an example, but we also need to get them online as quickly as we can.
Through you, Madam Chair, couldn't agree with you more. It would be done in parallel, but we certainly need to get our house in order. So we are recommending that we move forward with that, but that would not put any delay on moving forward and with any other properties that are not part of our municipal facilities.
Thank you. And I've written on this report, wow, quite a few times. I'm disappointed that this bylaw was enacted in 2014 and we're still sitting here with nothing happening. And to me, this is a risk to our water system, and as we all know, we have to be very careful with it, considering we're personally held. Is that true, Madame Lawyer, over there? I mean, are we?
Ms. Sario?
We're not personally being held. If anything should happen with the drinking water system, anything bad, it is the duty of the council to oversee that and make sure that everything is in order. So, could we be sued as a council?
Yes.
Through you, Madam Chair, it is my understanding that yes, as a council, you can be sued.
So that's even more shocking that, although we've had a bylaw since 2014. And as I said with the consultant, I think we've been lucky because we certainly do have a lot of water main breaks and need for fire water. That's all at the moment. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gartner. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through to Mr. Downey. Just along those lines, you identify a number of town-owned facilities, but when I look at institutional, I also think about schools. So would they also be on the list?
Mr. Downey?
Through Madam Chair, yes, they would.
So some of those 600 would be, schools and what other institutional buildings are in and around town, even though they may be owned by the school board or the province or whoever.
And that's correct. And the likelihood of them not having them is fairly high, particularly majority of them were built before 2009.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gallo.
Just again, a reference into the 2014 bylaw. Can anybody speak to why it's dormant or nothing came about? I distinctly remember it. I was on council when it happened. Any sense, Mr. Downey?
Mr. Downey, any comments?
Through you, Madam Chair, when I took over the portfolio, there were a number of items that we were looking into, and this was brought to my attention that we had a bylaw, but we had no systems in place in order to enforce this bylaw. So that's when we hired Derek to come forward and give us a program that would address this. So I can't say why or what purpose there would be for not moving forward in 2014, but I can tell you that I think it's important that we move forward now, which is the reason I brought this forward to council.
Thank you, Mr. Downey.
In that report, I think it would be beneficial if council got a copy of it or looked it up. It also speaks to there's currently $50,000 of approved funding to support initial promotion and education activities, retaining a third-party contract service to support this program. Any sense of whether that money was spent or where that money is if we put it aside for this?
Yes, Mr. Downey.
Through you, Madam Chair, so you saw some of it being spent this evening with Derek. That's the funds that we used in order to pay the consultant. We are going to use whatever remaining funds are available to us to certainly move forward with our education program. We want as robust an education program as possible. We talked about a public open house, and Derek is also working with Newmarket. They've held their public open house. Unfortunately, they didn't get the turnout that they had hoped. So we want to try perhaps something a little bit different than what did not particularly work well in Newmarket, but that's what those funds are going to go towards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gardner.
So it says in the report that this is going to be covered, all of the costs, a new staff member and the costs for us to administer this are going to be covered by the private property owners. Am I correct on that, Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, my understanding is the staff would be a rate-supported staff position, so it would be identified within the water rate. So it wouldn't find its way onto the tax base, but rather onto the water rate. But all costs associated with the installation, the surveying, and the inspection are borne by the property owner. Our role is totally administrative in this case.
So just for clarification, so are you saying that this wouldn't go on to everybody's water rate? It would go on to the water rate of the ICI users?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, we weren't suggesting it would just be isolated to ICI, but rather it would be carried by the water rate, because it is maintaining the health of our water system that everyone uses. However, if council wishes, we could certainly isolate this to ICI water bills alone. However, that isn't our recommendation.
Well, as a follow-up, if it's the ICI that's putting, possibly put water users in general at risk, I don't think it's fair that it would go on to the public's water bill. I would hope that it wouldn't. Are you waving at somebody for some particular reason?
Mr. Narosky?
Busted. To you, Madam Chair, it might be difficult to isolate, the costs of the individual and put it on only a select number of bills in our current system. We would report back on that. Another way of looking at the actual cost that we're talking about is one half-time person, and probably the educational expense, I guess, would really be the only cost. And when you divide that by the whole water base, I think it's a very small amount that would be relayed to each user, and it is for the safety of the whole system. We'd think that it's a reasonable recommendation to just put it on the, spread it across the entire rate.
I'd like to know what other municipalities do, because if they have a user that they know in advance is going to be potentially cause issues, would we able somehow to do a surcharge for that kind of a business that wants to come into town? Could that be, anyway, could it be checked to see what other municipalities are doing?
Mr. Downey, if you can help us.
Through you, Madam Chair, we can certainly check. The only municipality that I'm aware of in York Region that presently has an active program is Markham. So we know that there are 2.5 staff attached to their program in Markham, but we can certainly inquire to them as to how those positions are funded. As you've heard this evening, Newmarket is looking at bringing forward a program, as is Vaughan, as is ourselves.
Great.
I think I'm really referring to a high-risk business that we know in advance. I don't know if it's possible, but...
Through you, Madam Chair, we really, it would be unfair to identify one particular business without doing a proper survey. So that's the purpose, that's the very first step, is to make sure we survey each and every property to find out what the risk level is, and whether or not they have a backflow preventer or don't. And we take that survey information and then start implementing the program.
Thank you. I think, yeah, and I appreciate that. I was thinking more of a high-risk business that wants to move into town that could cause potential problems, but I get your point. Thank you. The only other issue I have is, concern I have is with retain a qualified person to conduct the tests, and the consultant did mention an institute, I believe, or there is an accreditation that one needs to have. So when they hand in the test papers, we would check to make sure that it's really an accredited person.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, with regards to the program, we're looking at nuances within the program. In Markham, we have been in touch with them. So they've actually accredited 4 contractors. Yeah. And so that if a company calls up, we say you can go to one of those 4s. We know that they're already accredited. Okay. If you wish to go outside of that, here's the accreditations you need to look at. So we are looking at making this as absolutely easy as we possibly can for the property owner as well as ourselves to administer it, and which is the reason that we're probably going to follow the Markham model and identify a certain number of contractors or inspectors that can do this job with all the proper qualifications.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last thing, Councillor Gallo will probably speak to it, or not. But I mean, this is going to be fairly costly. At a minimum, it's going to cost $2,560, according to my records every year, or my accounting. But that's the lowest cost. So there could be some very expensive costs here, but we would also have to weigh that with respect to how high they are on the risk scale.
Through you, Madam Chair, once again, the survey tells us all that information. We glean all that information from the survey. We can then start moving forward with the implementation or the installation, the paperwork with regards to putting in the backflow preventer. At the end of the day, the leverage that we have with regards to the property owner is to shut the water off until there's a compliance. So that is our ultimate hammer. That is not of any interest to us at this point. We are looking at for compliance, but at the end of the day, if we are not successful in getting the information that we requested in a timely fashion, that would be our resolve.
Great, thank you, Mr. Downey. Councilor Gardner?
I'm not sure. Thank you. So I'm not sure I was clear on that. We do have to understand that our businesses are going to have, it's going to be an expense, but my $2,500 estimate is based on a $500 cost for a pipe, but it can go up to, I think, $13,000. So we don't want to put undue hardship on our businesses. That's where I meant between the risk and the hardship balance. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Gartner. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, let's call a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On to item number R5. If I can get a mover for this. All right, Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Kim. Any comments or questions? All right, seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to no notice of motion, new business. May I start with you, Councillor Gilliland. Any new business tonight? No. Mayor Marakis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to bring up the provincial budget has come through, and one of the things that they're doing, and I know AMO's still looking through this, is that conservation authorities were told on April 12th that 3.7 million, so 50%, is to be cut from their annual 7.4 million transfer payment from the hazard program this year. So I'm just wondering, Councillor Gardner, as our representative at Lake Simcoe, maybe if you could look into this and just get us some more information on how this is going to affect Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority. I think we would all appreciate that information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Kim, any new business? Councillor Gardner?
Something I was speaking to Ms. Mackenzie Smith with, it's about play speak, and I think we're getting, there's a lot of people weighing in still that don't want to have protection in the stable neighborhoods, and I'm wondering, a lot of, it seems to me, but I don't know, that there are a lot of renters weighing in, and I don't think they have any, they really don't have any place in weighing in on this because they're not the property owners. And I think some of the other residents who do want protection are quite upset about this. So I don't know, I'm just saying it for a comment, but planning policy should be dealing with homeowners and not people who might be transient in the community.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Oh, sure, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add to, they vote, actually. They vote. They're voters.
But we're dealing with planning policy and how neighborhoods are going to evolve, and I think that is really the purview of the people who own the properties, as opposed to people who will be here just for a short period of time. Anyway, that's just my opinion.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Appreciate it. Councillor Thompson, any new business? Councillor Gallo?
Madam Chair, just on the note of Lake Simcoe and funding, I'm not sure who, but perhaps you, Councillor Gardner, could someone advise me what the who funds them? I'd like to know who funds Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority. I'd like to. Well, I'd like, if there's a document out there or an annual budget or financial report, I'd like to see where their funding comes from. If some.
Thank you. Maybe.
Thank you.
Councillor Gardner. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I think this is it. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Gilliland. Anyone else want to adjourn? Mayor Marakis, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.